Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yolanda Elmi Guvtaviani, and I'm from 5BC class. In this opportunity, I will present a presentation of research methodology. The material of today's presentation is developing a hypothesis and title for your experiment. First of all, let me explain the meaning of hypothesis. What is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is not just a guess. It should be based on existing theories and knowledge. It also has to be testable, which means you can support or refute it through scientific research methods such as experiments, observations, and statistical analysis of data. Variables in hypothesis. A hypothesis proposes a relationship between two or more variables, an independent variables and dependent variables. The first is an independent variables. It is something the researcher changes or controls. A dependent variable is something the researcher observes and measures. If the independent variable is described change, then the dependent variable will describe change. You must always use this if blank blank blank, then blank 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 statement, which stating your hypothesis because it states the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. For the example, daily apple consumption leads to favor doctor's visit. In this example, the independent variable is apple consumption, the assumed cause. The dependent variable is the frequency of doctor's visits, the assumed effect. For the example of hypothesis, if the amount of independent variable times is increased, then the amount of times the baby wakes up during the night will increase. The hypothesis states the relationship between the amount of TV time, independent variable, and the amount of times the baby wakes up, dependent variable. The title of your experiment. Like your hypothesis, the title of your experiment also has a specific format you must use. It also shows the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. The effect of independent variable on the dependent variable. Remember, in your experiment, you are looking to see if the independent variable has an effect on the dependent variable. For the example, the effect of the amount of TV time on the number of times the baby wakes up during the night. The next topic is effect versus effect. Effect is usually a noun. An effect is the result of a change. This word resembles to the result of an action. There should always be a cause and then its effect. When you use the word effect, it should be used as a form of noun. When you want to establish the impact of any phenomenon, then the word effect is used in the context. And when to use effect, the meaning of this word is the result of a change. If something affects you, you are going to experience the effect of it. For the example, city's air quality improved last night due to the effect of rainfall. And the next is effect. This word resembles the verb form. It means to influence something or produce a change. It can be said that this word is used to show how something has influenced an action to happen. For the example, the cold water has affected his health and he is ill. Here it shows that the cold water has affected the health adversely. This is the straightforward definition of these two words. However, there are differences in this usage of these two words. While writing, you may get confused about when to use effect and effect. Effect is usually a verb and it means to impact or change. It means to influence or to produce a change in something. For the example, the medicine will affect your eyesight for at least an hour. And the second example is diet affects a person's risk of cancer. Diet effectively influences a person's risk of cancer. The next is developing a hypothesis. There are some tips or some ways to develop a hypothesis. The first is ask a question. Writing a hypothesis begins with a research questions that you want to answer. The question should be focused, specific, and researchable within the constraints of your project. The next is do some preliminary research. Your initial answer to the question should be based on what is already known about the topic. The next is formulate your hypothesis. Now, you should have some idea of what you expect to find. Write your initial answer to the question in a clear, concise sentence. The next is refine your hypothesis. You need to make sure your hypothesis is specific and testable. There are various ways of phrasing a hypothesis, but all the terms you use should have clear definitions, and the hypothesis should contain the relevant variables, the specific group being studied, the predicted outcome of the experiment of analysis. And then phrase your hypothesis in three ways. To identify the variables, you can write a simple prediction in if then form. This first part of the sentence states the independent variable, and the second part states the dependent variable. The next is write a null hypothesis. If your research involves statistical hypothesis testing, you will also have to write a null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is the default position that there is no association between the variables. I think that's enough for today's presentation. Thank you.